Yeah, a lot of times when I try to do my meetups or presentations.
Sorry, let's have a look at this mic. Let's see if this is working. Say something? Is that working?
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Right, hang on, let's do that again for the recording, okay? So, it gives me great pleasure to hand over to Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I usually start with jokes, but apparently I can't think of any jokes, so I'm just going to go straight to it. But if you pardon me to start off, my name is Anthony, and I work for Global Logic. I've done so many stuff, like trying to do comedy, and it never worked. So, but I like to stick to DevOps. At least I know for DevOps, I'm kindly into it, and I understand a few things. So my topic today is DORA metrics. Any DevOps in the house? Come on. Okay, yeah, I guess there are DevOps. Software developers? All right, okay, not too many hands, but that's encouraging. So, so DORA, anyone know anything about DORA? Have you heard DORA?
Yeah.
Slightly. Okay. I've just seen hand flicking. What is DORA?
DORA is the DevOps Research
An assessment.
Assessment, thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's the definition, but it means a lot of stuff, really. So, in a nutshell, what is DORA? DORA is just a way of using DevOps tools to improve performance, right? What kind of performance are you trying to improve? It'd be like performance when you deploy code or when you publish code. So DORA is, if you like, a bridge between DevOps and software developers, right? So in essence, what it means is if you're developing a product, you're starting from, committing code, testing and all that stuff, and then publishing or pushing your code into the market. But at the same time, you want to be able to recycle that whole process, which is you go through an SDLC, and then in that process, you want to make sure that you are performing at the highest standard, right? So DORA gives you the ability to put metrics between all those processes, and then you can pinpoint within your SDLC cycle where there are failures, where you need improvement. So that is what DORA is in a nutshell. But again, it starts off from, actually DORA started from a developer team at Google, right? So, definition, it's a research program at Google, and then, that's exactly what it is. Developers' capability, metrics to measure software delivery performance, right? And then focus, what do you stand to gain? Improving software delivery through DevOps practices, right? So the key metrics, when you talk about metrics, you're actually looking at things you can measure, right? So stuff that you can put your hands on, or you can use some aggregated data to get you somewhere, right? Or to get you something that you can touch. And those things that you can actually touch are things that you can put back into your SDLC and then look for where you can improve. And then those improvements can, i.e., save you cost, okay? Because obviously you have less time to publish your code, and then you have less number of developers to work on your software delivery process, right? So DORA, if you go to DORA, what you get is actually research, right? But at the back of it, there are a couple of things that you can do that brings it out more publicly, right? So if you go to the DORA website, you find a lot of information like how you can apply DORA, the core survey, DORA surveys, and then the awards and all that stuff. But I'm more interested in the framework, okay? The framework gives you the capability and then the test and performance metrics. So just before I go on, any questions yet? No, okay. All right, so what is the DORA core? That's the actual framework. So for every software, it's essential to have a framework. But DORA is not actually a software, as I've said, but it's actually a process to measure metrics that allow you improve your software developer or development cycle, right? So, and what you get is the capabilities. If you're a DevOps guy or DevOps personnel, you actually are interested in, or probably have used some of those capabilities that you can see here, which is continuous delivery, deployment automation, loose coupling, XYZ. Those are stuff that we do every day as DevOps, right? So you go into, you check in code, you do continuous integration, and then the performance becomes what the delivery gets for you. So in that case, then the deployment frequency, you push a code, how often do you push the code? And then if you push code regularly, there's bound to be problems, right? Bugs, issues with performance with the code, XYZ, and all those stuff becomes bottlenecks for your software delivery. And what you can do then is to look at the ways of improving that whole process, right? And then giving back to the process to improve the next cycle of your software delivery. And that's how DORA becomes important. Now, again, DORA also have moved on to the artificial intelligence. These days you get software delivered by artificial intelligence through codes, and then through prompts, XYZ, and then DORA also have benefits and parts to play in that whole cycle as well. So I'm going to give you a little demo of a product that I've actually developed using software delivery with AI, and then how DORA has helped as well. So the other part of DORA that a lot of people have asked me is, well, what is the difference between DORA and microservices? So just a quick roll call here. Anyone have used microservices here? Okay. So if you look at microservices, what it actually entails is you've got images, right? Containers and XYZs that have actually been deployed for you. So what you do is you go in, download that image, and orchestrate that. So in that whole process, you have a situation where your code is almost finished, is almost ready to go. And then how does DORA come into play in that case? So what it does is it actually enables that whole process. One, DORA can use the tools of microservices, right? You can actually leverage containerizations and orchestration, and then use that to build the metrics. Also, the other part of it is it does as well can access and enhance microservices, right? So there are a couple of things that are very important to look at. One of those are key factors, and what are the de facto metrics that you find between DORA and microservices? Well, a couple of things come to mind. Microservices is decentralized, and then it's modular based, right? Whereas in the DevOps cycle with SDLC, DORA just looks at the end product through a software delivery cycle, right? So these are the commonalities and relationships between DORA and microservices. So how do you do DORA then, okay? We are familiar with this whole process, right? Developer, deploy, test, and build. So you can have the automation built weekly, daily, XYZ, and then those are stuff that we are used to every day. So, however, in that whole process, there are tools, and those tools are stuff that enable DORA to actually read and capture those metrics. So DORA fits in somewhere between those metrics, and then use those metrics to also analyze your whole developer cycle. And then these are the common factors or metrics that you want to look at, right? Deployment frequencies, lead time for change, change failure rate, and time to restore service. So frequency is how often, how quickly as well. Lead time, how long does it take from when you commit a code to when your product is published or released, right? And then change failure rate, so any changes within your cycle, how do you capture the failures, and then how much failure, or how can you fix those failure in minimum time, which is, again, fits into time to restore your service back on. So this is just a brief explanation of those metrics. You may want to take those down, but because of interest of time, I will just skip through those as well. But I mean, those are stuff that we talked about: change failure rate, percentage of failures, deployment frequency, lead time to change, and XYZ. And then what are the benefits of DORA? So, right, like I said, within your software delivery cycle, it helps improve performance, helps you deliver faster, reduce risk, and then also enable your team for better decision making, all right? That's a very key thing. So how do you implement DORA? So DORA, I mean, we've talked about DORA and what it does, but in essence, we use tools, right? So one of those tools are open DevOps tools. And anyone used open DevOps at all here, right?
Yeah.
Open DevOps, okay. What tool did you use?
There's a tool called Open DevOps in there.
Yeah, well,
Compass.
Compass, yeah, exactly. So they're actually leading the pack on open DevOps. So Atlassian, Jira, GitHub, Bitbucket, XYZ, those are tools that you will find as part of the Compass, right? So, but again, what is important is these are the tools that provide you the metrics, but however, how to build your metrics is what we're going to look at. I'm just going to demo those for you. And that's where Grafana, Prometheus, and OpenTelemetry comes in, right? So OpenTelemetry, I use that to script those metrics from your Open DevOps tools, right? And then I use Grafana to create the dashboard, and Prometheus as a backend script as well. So, yeah, so what do you get? So this is actually a fractional representation of where you belong. So as a company, if you're going through your software development cycle, you can actually measure where you are, whether you're doing well, you're on the elite level, or you're just high, just between elite and medium, and then low level as well. So all of those they're based on some certain metrics. If you've got a change failure rate of 0 to 15%, that's not too bad. But then you have to look at the other metrics, right? Time to restore service, how long does it take? An hour, 1 day, XYZ. And then lead time for change, how long does it take from 0 to deployment, right? Or to release your code. So all of those things help in determining where you belong in this whole process. Any questions? Anyone? Okay, is it interesting at all? Yes. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can't find any jokes, so let me just keep going on. All right, so demo time, right? So I have actually built something. I'm gonna see if I can showcase what I've built with this. All right, so what I've done is, before we look at the code briefly, I'm just going to showcase what you see on a daily basis, right? So where is Atlassian? Right, okay. So in your software development cycle, you have your project management and then, whatever tools that you use. In this case, Atlassian, as we said, it's open DevOps. But you'll agree with me, you're familiar with this whole process, right? Because for whatever, you're creating tickets, you're going through a cycle. And then if you're actually dedicated to this process, it actually gives you a reasonable time to estimate when your delivery can happen and how frequently it can happen. You can track the bugs. You can do so many things with this whole process, right? And then these are just agile tools or Kanban or whatever type of development cycle you do use. It's actually it doesn't matter what type of development cycle you use, but what's important is these are tools that we all are used to every day. Could be Jira, XYZ, or even Jenkins and all that stuff as a backend. But so in here, these are just some estimate of how we actually do. We create tickets, to-do list, and then you look at the next column. It tells you what tickets are blocked. You'll be able to look through that, and then what tickets are in progress. So if you follow this whole process, you'll be able to estimate how long it will take you to deliver a code, right? And then, but for us, this is the foundation of DORA, okay? So at the back of that, what we can then do is we are going to represent that in a Grafana dashboard like this, right? So what does that mean is if you look at it, we actually look at all those tickets, right? And then we have the lead time trends per bucket, right? And those buckets are, if you like, the containers of the tickets you have, okay? So those tickets can be placed into buckets. Then we also have the change failure rate. As you can see, those graphs coming through, the number of times the failure is happening, and then mean time to recover. So this is a Grafana dashboard, and then at the back of that Grafana dashboard is a Prometheus scraper. So if you can see that same whole dashboard there, this is exactly what you get from there, right? So all of this is being scraped from those ticketing system, right? So, but how does this work at the back, right? I'm just gonna demo that quickly, and then we can have a small time to discuss or ask questions. So, what you have is we have an hotel collector. So the hotel collector gives you, let's just go a little bit up. Yeah, so it uses OpenTelemetry SDK, and that OpenTelemetry SDK, you can say import Jira, XYZ, and then at the back of that as well, you create environment variables that talks to your, I'm going to change that anyway, so don't worry about it. So that talks to the back end, and then the back end as well sort of gives you the API call, right? So, and then at the end of that, you'd have, so these are the queries that you run. So you've got a bit of metrics data, average designer, XYZ, deployment frequencies, and then lead time. You've got a couple of those running through, and then your histogram dashboard comes through, and then we also have assign issue, callbacks for it. So there's a whole lot of code behind this to give you that Prometheus and Grafana dashboard. But what is important is to understand the value of what you're actually doing. And the value is to look at those metrics on those dashboards and be able to represent them with a code base. And then at the end of the day, you can present something to your team in terms of the dashboard that I've shown earlier on. And that dashboard will highlight where the failures are and process to improve those failures, or to go back and find pinpoints where pain issues are, especially lead time to fill and mean time to recover from any cycle. So what does that do for you? What it does is essentially when you look through those metrics, you can go back to your team and say, do you know what, we can actually improve performance by improving the number of bugs that happen using these metrics, or by improving the time it takes us from commit code to deployment. So all those metrics come through, and that's actually the foundation for DORA, right? So where it gets interesting is the AI part of it, right? So as part of that, let's see if I can do this. Right. So in terms of AI these days, it's all prompt-based, right? So what has happened is I've actually used the same metrics to create a language app that teaches kids and adults African languages, XYZ, and then at the back of it, you also have games, right? So it just makes it interesting, and we're just going to look at one or two games. We've got a bunch of those here. I'm just going to take a Dodge ride. So Dodge ride, just something, spins out words, and then where you try to dodge it, and then it gives you some queries, and you answer what that means, karibu, right, goodbye, or whatever, and then it gives you points, So it's quite interesting. We've got so many games in that. This is actually going to launch very soon anyway. But what I'm saying is DORA has actually helped in analyzing the code from beginning to end, and then looking at those metrics, whether it be as a team within your software delivery cycle, or just as an individual using AI to develop a code, right? Or to do something with your time. So these are some nice stuff that I actually have done. That's quite interesting, and that's going to happen soon. It's going to launch soon. But anyway, just going back to what we're doing today, which is DORA, can I just ask if anyone has any questions, or you need any further explanation about DORA? Any question? Is it a boring topic? Because I don't know, because most times when I go out, people ask a lot of questions. But is it right? Please.
Do you have a good way to differentiate between a bug that's introduced or an environmental error when you're trying to get your failure rate?
Right. Yeah, so what happens is you can actually use the query to filter what is noise, because when you look at it, oftentimes some bugs are environment, maybe configuration settings, XYZ, those are human errors, right? So you can write queries to filter out the human errors, and then to only focus on what is the real bugs that is going to come in through your DORA metrics. So that way, I mean, if you like, you can do whatever you want with it, but I would usually look at those as noise, because configuration changes and XYZ that introduces bugs shouldn't be there in the first place, right? So you can filter those out and then focus on code-based bugs and stuff like that, So that's the way I'd like to look at it. Any more questions? Right.
In the example that you gave, you used DORA as a framework that you could align with the way that you code, right?
Yeah.
What would happen if you wanted to implement DORA in a code base that simply didn't have that? Would you have to implement all of the metrics from scratch and then build DORA? Or what would you do in cases like that?
Yeah, so it's quite simple, because when you start off your software development cycle, you build a team. Within your team, you use Jira or whatever, you push into Bitbucket. We've got so many, like I did say, Open DevOps, right? You have so many tools within Open DevOps. You can actually write DORA for your software depots, right? Like your Bitbucket and stuff like that. You want to check how much codes and how frequently you push codes in there. So you can do DORA for that as part of your prerequisite delivery system, right? And then on the other hand as well, with your Jira as well, you want to see how quickly your flow process is going through, and then how quickly you're delivering. So you can introduce DORA at any time within your software delivery cycle. It doesn't have to be from day one, because these are metrics that you can collect and script. Right, thank you. Yeah.
Is there a risk that turning the DORA metrics into targets to be achieved could have unintended consequences?
Right, so there are risk factors, right? And the risk factor is if your DORA metrics are wrong. So that's the one thing, because then you give wrong information to the system regardless, right? So, all right, so that's one thing. And then the other factors is if your team is not following the proper software delivery cycle, then you'd have, I've seen cases where within my DORA metrics definition, I found a lot of outliers. And those outliers are stuff I think, okay, well, this maybe a member of the team is not actually delivering through the whole process or have some issues. Then those are outliers, and then I can pick out those outliers using gauge or average, median, XYZ. So there are tools that you can use within the whole process to remove outliers and then allow you to focus on the main thing. So that's the very much I can do today. Thank you all for this time, and I hope you enjoyed the talk.